nobody can say I have no need of you, and he composed the body, many members but one body. So I think that one of the struggles that people have is that people find themselves useless to the corporate body, depending on what their gifts are. Again, one of the struggles is, it's a blessing, I think, and also sometimes can be a struggle, is being up here, being visible, is that, at least when I look up there, when I used to sit in the congregation and see Lenny and Tammy used to be, you would think that their spiritual life is so holy, right? That you would think that they read the Bible 3 hours a day, and that they went and ministered to the poor like Mother Teresa, and they just did all these things, and you just don't know that they're maybe out living with their unbelieving boyfriend or whatever they're doing. But I think that people sometimes think that whatever you're doing, whatever ministry, is not as useful as other things. So, being up here versus being in the nursery with the kids is obviously just as important, kind of growing that body and the next generation of believers. And also maybe just the other day, Joanna had a team working with her to fill up backpacks for the kids, and that's just as worthy, according to God. And also the people in the sound room who are doing these things, that are behind the scenes. So, it says here that God has set the members, each one of them, in the body just as he is. So he is ordained with the spiritual gifts for every single person. There was one time I was at a Bible study in college, and it was called Live and Arise, and we were in the middle of praying, standing, holding hands and praying. The person that I was next to flew back, like at least 3 feet, just flew back and started seizing on the floor in the middle of prayer. And it was probably the scariest thing I think I'd ever seen. And all the girls kind of just didn't know what to do. We ran over, and I said, okay, we're in the middle of praying. Like, let's pray for her. We're going to lay hands. We're going to pray for her. And one of the girls wouldn't pray for her because she felt like she was like, I can't lay hands on her because I just don't feel worthy to do that. I just don't feel like that's that's my calling. I said, okay, that's fine. And everybody else who feels comfortable praying, come and pray. But I think it's stuff like that where you just don't make yourself available to God, because again, it's not your ability and what you have, it's more making yourself available. So that just kind of sticks out in my head, because why would you? We're not worthy. That's definitely not, we're definitely never going to be worthy, but God calls us to pray for people and intercede and heal the sick. So I thought that was really interesting, that she just didn't feel worthy that she could do that. I think another struggle is that some people grade gifts in terms of their importance or visibility. Again, like thinking that maybe, Pastor Frank's gifts are different than, David's, who cleans the church, or whatever it is, and it's just, there's no tier, I feel like, in heaven. Obviously, there are paths for different things that we do here on earth, but there's no tier of our spiritual gifts that you are better than you, and I think that's something that we just have to own. So I wanted to chat for a few minutes too on maybe some stories in the Bible that God has used people's gifts that may have seemed trivial. So can you guys maybe think of anybody in the Bible, any Bible stories or of where God used someone that they really didn't think he used?
The first one I came to was Samson.
Okay, that was God's doing that. I was like, yeah, he was like, this definitely Samson. Yeah, his strength. They're like,
Gideon,
yeah,
Moses.
yeah. Even I thought it was like
I'll tell you what John Baptist.
that just really, yeah, absolutely.
So we like choosing people who didn't think that they couldn't have the ability to be used.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My first person that I thought of was David, but with David and Goliath, with this little stone that he had thrown, something that he was maybe a little thing that he used to do with his friends, ended up slaying Goliath, so I thought that was cool.
So what you did just after that.
Yeah, everything else after that, right?
Yeah.
That came.
Yeah.
Right.
It was all God.
It's all
did
God. Yeah, he just used him. Solomon and Daniel, I think, too.
Yeah.
Are people that really were used by God without knowing kind of the extent of what their gifts were.
And Joseph.
Yeah, we were talking about, yeah, definitely.
lack of capability to fulfill.
Right? Yeah, and even Jeremiah being like so young, I feel like he died himself and be like, I can't do things I'm young. So maybe one of the prophets, yeah. Yeah. So I feel like there's just so many stories all throughout the Old and New Testament of God giving people maybe things that either seem trivial or people that don't feel capable of things or like, don't have the faith in what they can do, and God just using it no matter what. And I think that's so awesome. He does that because he knows us, he knows if we're gonna be able to surrender that to him, and whether or not we're gonna be when we're weak, he's strong. So I really feel like that's such an amazing thing that he's able to use us despite ourselves. So in 1 Corinthians, we're on that page 12.
What is it?
1 Corinthians, so we're right on the same page. 12. I'm gonna read just 4 to 6. It says, there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are differences of ministries, but the same Lord. And there are diversities of activities, but it is the same God who works all in all. So I think just remembering that God has set all of the members in its place, and everybody has their specific place. Everybody has a part of the body that they are, and one can't function without the other. Is such a huge part to kind of knowing how it could be used. So what exactly do we do with these gifts once we kind of understand what they are? And if we don't understand what they are, the test here is actually really cool. That kind of helps us know. But how do we know what to do with the gifts? Where do we serve? That kind of thing. So if we go to 1 Peter, 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10. Or 10.
You said 10? Go back. 4.
Yeah.
Or,
Next page.
yeah, you're right. Just go back. Okay, I don't know where it is, I can't find it.
Oh, it's a different.
That's okay.
Second meeting, that's fine.
Oh, you're in 2 Peter.
Oh, we're in second period.
First Peter is 1 Peter.
Like reading it upside down.
That's what I will.
Is it just verse 10?
Yep.
Okay.
First Peter 4, right? Verse 10.
Yeah.
What is it?
I'll read it. God has given each of you a gift from his Lord.
First Peter?
1 Peter 4:10.
Yeah.
Wait, is this wrong? Yeah, I have. God has given each of you a gift from his great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve one another.
Okay, different version. That's what I was.
Oh, it's New Living
No, that's
Translation.
fine. Okay, no, I like that translation. That's actually, in terms of making it easier too. As each one has received a gift, minister it to one another as good stewards of the manifold of grace. So why do we serve? Obviously, ministering to one another, but the end goal is because we're serving God with our gifts. I feel like Sunday's message with Pastor Frank was really kind of hit home for me too, because that I felt like correlated exactly with what I wanted to talk about in terms of how God uses us, and maybe some of the struggles too that we might face. So basically, to sum it up, the things that I really got from it is that everything we do flows from the love of God. So, again, checking ourselves and saying, okay, why are we here tonight? Why are we coming tomorrow morning? Why am I going to go up on that altar and play that instrument? Why are we going to go and, minister to these kids? Or why are we going to go and start this basketball ministry, or whatever it is? Everything that we do needs to kind of flow from our love for him, and not just out of duty and obligation, which I do honestly feel like it's really easy for that to happen sometimes. We get in a routine because we're just human, and kind of just asking ourselves, God, why am I doing this? And sometimes, a lot of times, I'll not want to come on a Wednesday or a Sunday or whatever it is, and sometimes I won't want to come with that kind of broken and contrite heart, but I'll ask God and say, God, make me want to to love me more or make me use me anyway, even though my flesh doesn't want to step foot in that church today. I'm not gonna lie, I want to just set my snooze alarm and just sleep, but with whatever I have, just use it, and he is so faithful and does, but I feel like checking ourselves is so important. Checking all of your motivations. So a lot of times I have felt guilty for saying no. You know, will you want to play at this? And I would feel guilty if I would, you know, not be available. I think routine, like we talked about, you know, is another one. What are our motivations? Do we want to be seen? Do we want to show off? Is it just peer pressure because, you know that you're the young adult person, so that you have to do all of these things, and you know, people coming up to you guys and asking you to do certain things. Is it just peer pressure, maybe, that we're doing certain things? So I think that checking that. He was saying that the Pharisees used to serve to be seen, and the Sadducees used to serve for power, prestige, and wealth. So I feel like that's just so applicable now too, you know, in our day and age. One of the other things in his message was just having a thankful heart, that which is kind of why that song that I had chosen kind of came into play. Just having that thankful heart that he chose just whatever little I had and chose to set us apart and chose us to call us out by name. So having a thankful heart and making our life count for something eternal. And then the last couple of things that he had said was, after we find out what our spiritual gifts are, and we know what we're doing, that we know we're serving for God's glory and to edify the body, now what do? We have to exercise, study, and pray. And you just like anything else, I have to get better at guitar and get better at knowing my word and get better at all of these things. And then after you're done with that, which you really are not done, but after, you know, you've had this period of growth, then you deploy and minister. So he was saying with these gifts now, you know, they're not for just us, they're just to edify the body and to kind of to glorify him. So and that's like pretty much it. I definitely wanted you guys to check out the packets, and if you guys have any questions and if you guys want to look at them, they're like really awesome, and they just kind of helped kind of me figure out like, okay, well, I like to do all of these things, but what is just something that I like to do versus what is what God really wants me to do. But I definitely have been blessed, you know, with God, I think, calling me out of my comfort zone and calling me to grow and kind of putting me in this position. But it's definitely like when you texted and said, you know, I want you to talk about your struggles as a worship leader, it was like, oh, let me just write a whole book on this. Like, it looks nice and stuff up here, and it's, you know, and it's great, and it's been such a huge blessing that, like, he's honestly chose me for that. But it really does, with any other ministry, it comes with so much other stuff that I think that we're battling. So that's kind of all I can talk about.
That's a nice question.
Yeah, no, please ask.
The time
You
when
wanna know what happened to that guy?
No.
I don't know what happened to the girl overseas.
She was okay.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
No, my question was more towards like when you those moments in your life where you wake up and I guess your carnality, your flesh, and you know, your leans towards more like, you know, you don't want to be around, you don't want to be even in the worship or just in a sense of God's physically, like God's presence, or God's just like, you know, just, and it has anything that has to do with God in a sense. But then some part of you kind of force yourself to get up, make yourself wait, and then in the midst of that day, you know, has you ever, maybe not from the worship, or maybe in the worship moment, where, or after the worship, where in that full day, you somehow God spoke to you in some way, like, or said something to you specifically, or convicted you, or even poured his love on you at the same time, like
100% of the time. Every single time that happened, 100%. So every time I don't want to come, every time that, like you said, like my flesh is just kind of like, you know, I'm just not feeling it today. I don't really want to go. I don't want to do all that, and really don't want to minister to that person, whatever it is. I go also knowing sometimes it's initially out of duty. Like, honestly, it's just initially because I have to be there because ain't nobody can play else, you know, here, which is not me. So sometimes it's that, and then sometimes it's also knowing that I will 100% know that I will be changed at some point during that time of worship or service. And never been like, oh man, I have to come on a Wednesday, and then I went, and then it was like, oh, it was terrible, you know, like God didn't speak to me at all. It's always been like God being like, see, you know, you're here, I got you here, and now this is what I have to reveal to you. So 100% of the time, he's like spoken to me in that way, or like you said, just even if it's not some, you know, life revealing rhema, and maybe it's just pouring
It's
love.
like in a sense, like regardless of how you felt, like
Yeah,
you either something was planted in you
exactly.
or something
Yeah,
spoke to you. You know what I mean?
right.
And that it doesn't even have to be even something. It could be obviously it could be a rhema in those cases, but it could even be someone even out like who was here that just said something to you,
Right.
just to remind you of some of
Exactly.
what you are doing or
Exactly.
you know. And so I guess we don't
You just
always
never-
see it, you know.
Yeah, you don't always see it at that time.
At the time, it might even happen at the very last end of the day, like the very end of your whole day, and then you be home and so.
But I think that's what you, what you said, I think was so important, those 3 words is, or those 4 words is regardless of how you felt. I think
Yeah.
that's it. That's what it is. It's regardless of how you feel. This is not about you and your laziness and your tiredness and your procrastination and the fact that you feel completely unworthy. This is regardless of how you feel. God needs you to do something here tonight at that time, you know?
There you go.
And will use you and bless you if that happens.
Amen.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if the question necessarily is something. It like I don't know. Like I wanted to ask and see because it seems you've been walking longer, or maybe in your experience. Sometimes I feel like there's like gifts that are like more obvious, right? Like it's like if I'm a good singer and I'm a good musician, I'm gonna join worship. You know,
Right.
and there's like others that are kind of like there's so many question marks. You're like, well, what can you know? So you start asking, and then like you do tests like these where you're looking for a spiritual gift, and then you're like, you know, like sometimes it's like your flesh can maybe want a certain outcome. So then sometimes you don't even know if you're answering completely honestly. So then you're like, you know, so I was just curious if you ever like come along in your experience with like people in their walk that like didn't know what they wanted, or like God led them somewhere and you noticed certain like characteristics about them that ended up coming out as like, oh yeah, well I see why this and this will go together. Or, like I see why someone who can sing or play an instrument can be in worship. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of people that I feel like it's also, you know, like seeing kind of being around and seeing people in their ministries too is like, even with John, with my husband too, like he is more of a baby Christian and kind of newer, right, than other people who may be a little more seasoned. So him kind of understanding like what his gifts are and stuff, and I really feel like that he has a gift of prayer and intercession, and when he prays, and I'll tell him like, you know, you like really are a powerful prayer, and you really can speak, you know, speak words into someone's life, and he's kind of like, really, and you kind of you know, are like that person to be like, no, I really think that you can maybe, you know, pray about this, and this is maybe something that God has really blessed you with. And the other day when on Wednesday night here we were with Alicia Castillo in high school.
yeah.
She had prayed, and I met Pastor Frank went up to her right after, and I saw him say, you know, you really have this gift of poetry and writing. So him kind of speaking these words into her, and she was like, her face was just like, really? Like, you know, and he was like, no, like just poetry and just, you know, you're a beautiful speaker and a beautiful writer, and kind of just helping with those kinds of things. But yeah, I mean, I think like you said, there's things that are obvious, and then there's things that are like, should I do that? Like, should I maybe not? And I think it's just about making yourself available again, and I also kind of knowing your limits. Like at one point I had really wanted to be a youth leader, like 100%, like in it every single time, knowing that I love the youth and knowing that I love like to just come and hang out with them and minister to them. But at the time in my life when I wanted to do it, I knew that I wouldn't be able to commit to it every single Sunday, and I knew that I would be super flaky and that I would not give Pastor Lou that time that he needed. So I took a step back from that, because I felt like as much as I want to, like I just feel like right now I can't. But yeah, I think just making yourself available into things, you know, letting me know.
Come to you with availability. That makes sense.
Yeah.
How many years your mother father go back?
Good question. So I was 12, so 20 years ago they got divorced. 19 years ago they got divorced. It seems like an eternity that they were apart because I was 12, but I think that I asked her recently and it was like 2 or 3 years. Something insanely short, where for me it felt like 10 years. It was like, so I lived with my mom, my dad was out of the picture, they were always fighting, I was in the middle, and we were moving around back and forth between like 7 houses. Somehow they kind of got back together, and I remember being really angry that they were getting back together. Because I remember being like, why did you put me through that if you're just going to stay together? Not knowing, like, obviously, as an adult, there are things you go through, but I remember being angry, like, literally almost, I remember sitting here almost crying while watching Pastor Frank marry them, being angry. Like, why? But it was probably 2 to 3 years that
How old were you? So when they got married again, you were what?
Like 15 or 16. And just being, like, mad, you know?
Yeah.
Not understanding, like, what is this for? Like, you know? Now, obviously, they've been together, and, you know, they've obviously grown, and my dad became a Christian and everything, and God has really blessed that part of my family. My brother and my sister are 20 years older than me, and they're both not saved. So I think it's obviously really hard for us, because we're kind of this unit, you know, and we serve together, we come to this same church, and then my brother and sister are very different from us. So,
Does your brother live in New Jersey?
no, he's in Chicago, and she's in Texas.
And second, and how many years has your mom from John? You're hiding your.
So John, I didn't hide John, which is good. No, so this boyfriend that I had was in college. We were together for 4 years, and we had lived together for 2 or 3.
This is the last question.
That's okay.
We all hear Bible from Jesus, right? We never hear about Mary. Why? Yeah, like about her.
Mary?
Mary. How come-
Mary, like the mother of Jesus.
Yeah,
Why don't we hear about her?
yeah.
I mean, I think Pastor
Wasn't
Frank
it
has
by
taught.
him?
Yeah, Pastor Frank has taught, I think, for a Mother's Day, right?
Yeah,
this
he's
man said, I
definitely
mean,
taught
more about her.
About her?
I don't know.
She's
I guess-
she's part of in the conversation always
Yeah.
with the disciples.
Yeah,
That she's
There's
Yeah.
not much in the Bible about her,
Yeah.
though.
true.
And even then, I think the stuff that we do talk about her is the most important part.
Yeah.
Is the fact that she was a
Just-
servant that was willing to obey, you
Mhm.
know?
Makes
And
sense.
like, those are the things that are, and that she obviously was, she had the love of the mother, and like, but I guess, I don't want it to sound rude, but I don't really see the point in teaching or talking that much about Mary.
Yeah.
I think she was one, the
Yeah.
fact that she was
Right.
such a willing
Yeah.
servant.
Because my other church talk about Jesus and
But
Mary.
it's the Orthodox
Yeah.
church, right? Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
different. 2 different denominations revere Mary in a different way,
Right.
Yeah.
right? Like some
Yeah.
Catholic churches and some Orthodox churches almost put her on the same playing field as Jesus.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And in the Bible, it's not, because God is God and
Yeah,
we are not. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
so it's just
Oh,
a
right.
different
Yeah.
Right.
a different tradition in
Yeah.
different
Right.
churches, you know. That's why we don't have any statues of Mary up, you know, because we don't.
My house too.
Right.
We have statues of Peter
Yeah.
and Jesus and household and.
I don't think there should, well, we don't have statues of Jesus.
No, but I'm
Do
saying like,
people believe,
in a sense, like-
believe her?
huh?
So some big people believe her? But believe?
Believe in her, like pray to her. Some people do pray to her.
Yeah.
I mean, mostly Catholic. and-
Mostly, it's a tradition though.
Yeah,
It's kind
yeah.
of like a taught thing. Yeah.
For
In the
us,
Bible-
like, it's both.
in the Bible, nobody prays to Mary.
Yeah.
We only pray to God.
Yeah.
Yeah, only God, yeah.
Only God.
Yeah.
But
We
my
don't
country,
pray to the
it's
saint.
both.
In your country, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Oh, your country. Yeah.
a lot of tradition in like cultures.
Yeah,
Like you were saying,
everybody.
traditional Filipino
Yeah, we all
Catholics.
have that.
Absolutely.
It's
That's why I think it's so
It's
hard
all
sometimes to
tradition.
break it. You know.
Yeah, a lot
To
of
break
it's
certain-
tradition.
To
right.
break certain traditions is hard.
Yeah.
It all, it's sad though, because breaking the tradition, all it does is it comes down to actually just read word.
Mm.
Right. And
Because if
knowing,
you just read it and know it, you'll know that you're not supposed to do.
like knowing what you do things.
Yeah,
what-
like, it's like, for Egypt, deliver God like it's structural. God, for us, it's God.
The creator.
They created, yeah. Everybody has different ways. Some people have a voodoo, whatever.
Yeah, everybody has got their
I
own.
love the traditions.
Everyone's got their own thing, yeah.
Sad, but
Yeah, the enemy's definitely got.
I guess, but it's like Kim says, like, you know, we could be doing all those things, but God kind of looks right through the heart of a person.
Yeah,
And just,
exactly.
you know, so it's like we surpass all those things, even in our own Christian acts
Yeah.
that we do, you know. So
and God forgives people where how they are, how they come, right?
come as you are,
Yeah, as long as they're
Exactly.
coming with that humble heart and.
yeah,
Exactly.
with a repentant heart, humble heart, and they're seeking God. Really, at the end of the day. It's
Yeah.
what they
It's
desire.
hard. Some yes, like as people don't believe. That's hard. Some people,
Yeah, some people just have really hard hearts.
some people, they know God from the beginning. After that, I don't believe it. You know, it's sad.
Yeah. That's
But
like
we're pray for them.
it's the parable of the sower
There you
and
go.
the seeds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
I've met Christians in every different aspect of that parable,
Yeah.
where they're like, I'm a believer, and then one
Something
bad
happens.
thing happens in their life and they're out the door, and it's like, that's, you know, they didn't have
In all that, I mean, at the end of the day, we had to trust in God's sovereignty and that
Right.
He will, in due time, and just depend, God's grace will, you know, shed light on that person. You know?
Right.
And even in our, like you mentioned, your family members, I got my family members, relatives and everything like that. At the end of the day, you know, they could be practicing this or that and that. And one part of it, our duty is obviously share, love on them, you know, care for them and minister to them in a sense. But I'm learning more and more that just to make myself available for my family, be there for my family, you know, love on them, and just let, you know, I guess God really through me,
Right.
and just let go, and just allow God really just to be the one to
Right.
manifest Himself to them in a personal way, you know, where it's not me, like,
Pushing it.
you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
where and I think we're all can relate to that.
it's like a fine line, because it's like
Mhm.
it really is,
Mhm.
I don't wanna say it's simple, because it's not, but it's really two things, you just live by example,
Right.
and then prayer,
Mhm.
but sometimes the part of living by example, to some people ends up becoming like a self-sacrifice, they feel like, oh, like I'm sacrificing my life, because I need to be so kind, I need to be so good, I need to do all this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, like, you know, just because I discussed this with some people,
Right.
and there's like a fine line where it can feel like you're almost like, it's like such a sacrifice. Like it really, it should just be your walk. You know?
Right.
It's just you doing things out of love for God.
Right.
So it's just like, we
You know,
just
once
we
they're-
complicate everything.
We do. Like, what was it? It was share the gospel and use words if necessary. Have you heard that? And so
Yes.
it's like kind of
Yes,
like,
I have
having,
heard
you know,
that.
having
Share
your
the
life
gospel.
be that example, you know.
Yeah.
Although in my case, I feel like it's almost like sometimes I get so comfortable in that, and then sometimes you do have to use words, right? Sometimes you literally have to let them know. And I feel like I've never sat down with my sister or my brother and said,
The
"This is
gospel.
who Jesus is."
Yeah.
And I'm not like I've never done it. I'm the very little sister. Like I'm the baby. I'm like the oops baby 20 years later, and I just feel like that is something that I don't know if my parents have done it, but I've never sat down and said like, "We believe, and this is who Jesus is, and this is who He says He is," and I've never said that specifically. I feel like they know they've come here before to visit, you know, and so it's definitely one of those things that like I would.
It's been on my mind too, though. I have to be honest. I've been wondering to ask that question. Like, just like I've been showing her like the card, the image, just like five simple questions like who's Jesus, you know,
Right.
where, who do you think Jesus is, or who do you say Jesus is?
Right.
What do you put your faith in? Just a bunch of some questions where they can just think about, you know, and not come in a sense like you know everything, but just like just let them to think about those and just like okay. Because at the end of the day, yeah, it's it's like a thin, like at the beginning, there's like line, like where like we can't be God, and we say, okay, well, but at the same time, we're supposed to kind of love and share at the same time, share the gospel, you know,
It's
like,
kind of sad how difficult you make it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I don't know if it's because we're ashamed, or if it's just that we feel like we're not equipped with the right things to say, or we're like, don't feel like we're gonna, like, a lot of times,
we gotta get it right.
most of the
Yeah.
time, it's almost like maybe 50% is like, will randomly speak to someone about Christ, and they're like, and they just like, it's almost like placed on a silver platter, they're like, well, who is Jesus? And
Right,
they'll
they'll
like,
literally ask
they
you,
literally
right?
make it
Yeah.
easy, and the other 50% is like the most frustrated. You go home so frustrated.
Yeah.
You're like, I said all the wrong things. I didn't say the right thing. Like, God, I didn't even tell them who you are. I was just trying to talk, but then they felt judged, and it's like, and you like feel like you did it all wrong.
Right.
And I'm like, I was actually speaking on the phone with Chris Fig about this last night, because we were just talking about evangelizing and feeling comfortable speaking our testimony or speaking about who Christ is to someone, and how like a lot of the church actually, like we almost like keep it to ourselves in these four walls, you know, or like, and if we do evangelize, it's like when we feel comfortable, like in our
Yeah.
terms.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, I've been here for 19 years being fed all of this amazing stuff. Like, how am I keeping it? You can't just keep it to yourself, right? Like, I've been fed literally sitting here for almost 20 years.
I think 'cause we know the truth.
Right.
And you know what? Here's one of the things that got me is that the truth will always, real love will always tell the truth. You know, we real, but when it comes to Jesus and our walks, and it's almost like since we had experience and heard, you know, God's truth, and we know what it can do. You know, and it can do two. I think it can do two things. It could either, you know, someone could either just totally reject it and just, you know, and because of this truth, or someone could totally just fall in love with it. You know what I mean? But like we get caught up with the things in between, and you know, and all that stuff. And like I had to accept it. I had to accept it that yo, his truth is more important than just how I feel. I just gotta tell the truth.
Right.
Let that sink in.
We act as though we can see people's hearts
Yeah.
based off of their characters.
Right.
So like, oh, they're never gonna do
Right.
But there's like
Yeah,
a girl who, I know I mentioned this to you with my new job, that we were like just butting heads after I brought like the baby bottles.
Yes.
And like it turned into like a whole debate about